Here we go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Merge Feast. I'm Blake. Joined with me is Logan and Brandon. What's up, you two?
What up? How's it going?
Going well. Going well. Well, let's kick it off by the star of this week. Star herself, obviously voted out, but like TV gold this week. Should like Uncle JP was not a fan of the nickname, but I was. So, it, we'll see if that sticks around. It may be a Jelinski 2.0, but so what'd you guys think of this week? Were you surprised Star went home? Where are you at?
I was disappointed Star went home. I think Star was the last entertaining contestant left, but it also meant that I think the last 3 or 4 episodes or whatever we have left are going to be pretty straightforward as far as how the votes play out. So I was really hoping that something would happen with the outsiders this week, and it didn't. And unfortunately, we lost Star. So a lot of great moments from her. Great one-liners. Not sure about the rap career, but the comedy is there.
Yeah, no, she's definitely full of it and just fun and, like you said, good TV. I mean, just thinking of Uncle JP and stuff like that on the spot, like she's just kind of a fun personality. And I'm curious on your guys' thoughts of like, do you think the reason the move or to try and blindside the strong group fell through, is that more based on how Star approached that, or what do you think the big cause there is?
I don't know. I don't think Star necessarily helped. On one hand, like how she approached Mitch through, like with that conversation where she told him, "Hey, you should play your shot in the dark." I think what she meant to say, or what she meant by that was, "Hey, people are coming after you. You need to be aware of it. Potentially play your shot in the dark. We should do something." None of that actually got said to Mitch until he like had his initial reaction, and then kind of talking about it a little more. And he was like, "Man, I don't really trust you." But in Star's defense, she's been trying to make moves and trying to convince people to go after other people, and nobody seems to want to work with her. Nobody seems to take her seriously. And realistically, in my opinion, she probably had one of the weaker games for the people that were left. So I'm okay with her going home, but she was very entertaining and she will definitely be missed. And I hope she has a Twitter account or X. And I don't know, because I think she could be really, really funny.
Yeah, I would say you can't fault her for trying, because she definitely attempted. I think she's just working, like when you look at the majority group, clearly outside of David, none of them were willing to move from that. And then you had Mitch, who it seemed like Mitch feels like he's in with the majority group. I question the thought process there with him, but also it didn't feel like Mitch and Star had a great relationship. That kind of came to light in this episode, where they were honestly both at each other. I know Star voted Mitch.
Well, that's what's been interesting about this season so far is we kind of have two groups of people, but one group is a super tight alliance and the others are kind of aligned because they're against the other group, but they're kind of a bunch of like, not misfits in gameplay, but they're not really all together and they're not voting cohesively. And I don't know.
Almost forced to work together, yeah.
Well, it reminds me, I think my trouble, it reminds me of season 45, when you had the Reba 4, they just dominated the game. You had D, Austin, Drew, and Julie. You had all them, and then you had the yellow and blue tribe. I don't remember their names, but you had all of them that, like, all they needed to do to take them down was just band together, and they just could never get on the same page. And it feels similar to that. I think it was worse in 45 than it is here, but I think what you have, like, just not thinking things through, like Mitch being cool with Kyle in that group, but it's like, do you want to be in the majority alliance and be at the bottom of it, or do you want to be part of the revolution, as they were calling it, and actually do something? Because it's, hey, we could make something happen here potentially, or at least force a tie and force them to go to rocks, or force one of them to flip, because we're not going to flip. Or, hey, at least I made final 6. Like, how do you want to go out? And I would say go out trying to make a move.
Part of me wonders how much everyone else on the tribe realizes how tight those final 4 are. Like, does Mitch realize how tight knit they are, where we can see that on our side? On, like, why do you not believe that you're at the bottom of the 6? And how much of it is Mitch thinking, like, okay, I'm in the mix here.
I have a hard time believing that he wouldn't know, like, how close they are. I mean, if we're seeing it, they're out there around each other for that much. I have a hard time believing that he wouldn't know how close they are, or know kind of where he stands there.
Yeah, the only thing I could think, obviously, I think everybody knows Joe and Eva's alliance to each other, but maybe there is, and it could be something that Kamilla's put the work in of having people question Shaheen's allegiance and kind of where he stands within the tribe, and even Kyle to a certain extent, because I know Mitch and Kyle go way back to the Siva days, so it could be, and Kamilla as well, it could be just as simple as I feel like I'm more in than I am, and not realizing that, oh, I know there's a strong 2 there, but I didn't realize there was a strong 4, and I'm not fully convinced there is a strong 4. I think there might be a strong 3, but I think Kyle would be willing to move.
You say that, and I don't disagree. However, he's in a really interesting spot because he had the opportunity to make the move, and then he could pull in Mitch very easily, and then Kamilla, and there's 3. They would be set up really, really well. I don't know. It seemed like if he was going to make the move, this would have been the time to do it.
Yeah, I think he felt like it was too early, but also he had the personal kind of bond with Joe. But I almost wonder if he felt it was too early, because maybe they could have easily turned around next week and just got Kyle out, and I don't think he wanted to jeopardize that yet.
Right. The tough part is, I don't know how... I mean, they're sitting... To have a final 2, Joe and Eva, and then 2 advantages, the safety without power and an idol, which, speaking of Eva's idol, that was originally Star's.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Star seemed close. Joe and Star seemed close because of Star and Eva. None of that got talked about tonight. And and I know Star wouldn't have asked for her idol back. She made that abundantly clear, but I'm surprised that it didn't even get talked about at all.
I'm not sure they were as close as you think they were. I think that there was a moment where they were close, and I think going back to the Eva and Joe episode where Eva had the episode during the challenge, and I think Star was still feeling the high from that, and I think it did build a relationship, but I don't know if it lasted. I think it was cool. We've got Star on our side. We don't necessarily need to worry about it right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were close. I don't think they were.
I still feel like we've seen Star and Eva interact a ton outside of at the very beginning.
Well, I guess there for a while I was thinking that she was a part of the Strong Six, but it seemed like the last, like,
No, she's been on. I mean, she's been on the outs with that tribe since day one. I mean, going back to her finding the Beware advantage, they were trying to find a way to just. I mean, Thomas is trying to find a way to lose the clue to it. So there's always been like this. Yeah, we got to deal with Star sort of thing. And I think that there was a moment where, oh, it could work, but I just don't think
right.
I don't think Star fit the majority's strategy or plan.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. What'd you think of Eva's conversation with Mary after they got back from tribal, like right at the beginning of the episode, where she basically told Mary, like, hey, I'll work with you until I can't, and then I may have to write your name down, but I'll tell you about it, and I'm absolutely not playing my idol on you. What'd you think of that?
Again, I think jury management, kind of like Joe was doing. And it almost, with them both doing that, I wonder if they had a conversation about that. Or maybe that's just on their mind. But it seemed very kind of similar of just, hey, we're going to be honest with you, blah, 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 some of these things. And so I wonder if they are trying to work on that jury management. But I thought it was interesting that both Joe and Eva today like had those conversations.
I actually didn't pick up on that detail that they both. I know they both had the conversations, but I didn't put together that they both kind of essentially had the same conversation with her and were just honest. I personally felt, obviously Mary's smart and kind of obviously saw what they were doing. I didn't feel like either of the conversations were really necessary because outside of jury management, you're in the majority alliance. You don't need to console or explain yourself to anybody. So.
Yeah.
It
for
was
sure,
100%.
I just wonder if Eva was, obviously she was close with David and didn't necessarily want to vote him, and then knowing that relationship with Mary there and some of that, I wonder if that was more of why she did. But I honestly think it was more jury management.
Yeah, and Mary seemed to react better to Eva's conversation than she did Joe's. I was a little surprised at how Joe handled that conversation because I've been pretty impressed with him, but I don't know. I didn't love it.
I didn't think it was a good look. Straight up, just we voted David out because of you is wild.
Yeah.
So, but
hey, he's playing honest.
He's playing honest, but it didn't really surprise me because he doesn't have a great strategic game. So I wouldn't necessarily call the conversation a blunder, but to feel like he needs to do that and almost earn Mary's favor just didn't land. And I think maybe it's I'm Joe and everybody loves me, Mary's going to eat this up sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know that I would go as far as say it was a blunder, but I don't think it helped.
No.
So I don't know.
It's interesting because now I'm starting to wonder, like just based off of Mary's confessional after Joe had talked to her, I almost want to see a Joe and Eva in the final. Just because I want to see them have to answer for their game.
Yeah. And if that were the case, I honestly feel like Eva would almost have more to speak to right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I think she's played a better all-around game. I do think, though, maybe from a relationship standpoint, she hasn't done that work. And I think there's going to be some people on the jury that are going to say, hey, what's my dog's name? Name one thing about me. I bet you can't name one thing about me type of thing. Like, I haven't seen that she's really branched out outside of the boys, So I think she's going to have some trouble there getting some votes.
Yeah.
Speaking of being able to speak to your gameplay, I want to talk about Kyle and Kamilla. This week was pretty interesting for me, but to watch their dynamic, because still nobody knows that they're as close as they are, and they're both on opposite sides but still working very well together. Like how she told Kyle that everybody was wanting to vote Joe, and he was like, I don't know that I can do that. But then he said, I'm not going to stop you. And basically said, if you want to take the shot, that's on you. But then you could see his mind work behind the scenes on saying, hey, who I picked was strategic, because I want whoever I left back at camp to want to hop on board with Kamilla and take this shot, like it for the reward challenge. And so he was almost getting ready. He was kind of laying the groundwork and setting the stage for him to be able to say, okay, if she speaks to this, I can also speak to this. I'm not the one that pulled the trigger, but I set the plan into motion, or I helped set it up. And so like he could almost speak to the same gameplay as what she could have. And I don't know, I just thought that it's those kind of moves and that kind of thought process that tells me that, okay, you are playing a very, very strategic, good game. So I don't know. I was pretty impressed.
I would say a very intentional game.
Yeah.
Like everything that he does and everything even Kamilla does, it just feels like it's not just willy-nilly. It just feels like there's some greater reason as to why they're doing it. And it's so fascinating. And I don't have any data, but I don't know the last time we've seen a duo go undercover as long and as well as they have.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the last one that was pretty solid was Charlie and Maria?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they weren't really undercover.
I mean, for the first little bit they were, and I mean it was a good portion of it, but
To
I think
carry
after,
it that far into the merge.
no, for sure, it's definitely been different this season, and I thought it was kind of interesting, like you were talking about, Blake, with the way Kyle was like, hey, if you want to take the shot, you go for it. I'm not gonna like step in or like join in on it, but I don't know, that it's kind of interesting for him to have that outlook, because if she does pull that off, does that put him in a worse position with his alliance and not having the majority and some of that to get move on? Or I don't know. You don't typically see somebody with such a strong alliance saying, hey, if I see or your name comes up, I'm going to mention something to you, but not often you see him say, hey, I'm not going to step in the way. If you can do it, you can do it. I don't know. It's just kind of different.
It tells you where his allegiance really lies, and it's with Kamilla.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something that I was really hoping would happen, and we can do a little hypothetical here since we didn't get the opportunity to see it. I think it would have been a great opportunity for Kyle. Let's say Joe doesn't win immunity and they go after him and they do the 4-4 tie and Kyle flips. Kyle could be the one to flip. Then you now have the majority with that group. You could move to working with Kamilla, Star, and Mitch out in the open, and then you don't have to go back and explain anything to anybody.
Yeah, I think the problem is nobody trusted Mary and Star to uphold that side of the aisle. So now, could he have done some damage control and said, man, it's going to piss off Eva, but Shaheen, look, here's why I did it. We've still got the numbers. We're still good. I had to split up Joe and Eva, that kind of thing. And I don't know.
I think Shaheen would have understood it. I think Shaheen kind of has some wandering eyes anyway. I think he's looking at a way to make a move. The one thing I don't understand is the hesitation to work with Star. I know kind of being called a loose cannon and a wild card, but I'm just like, Star is motivated to work. And I think if she keeps pitching ideas and she just keeps getting shut down instead of like, well, what if we do this? I wasn't understanding why people don't want to work with her. I get why people don't want to work with Mary. Desperation is a scary place to work with.
And I think Mary would have gone home if she still had her shot in the dark. I think that was the deciding factor on, hey, we can keep her around and we can guarantee to get her out because she doesn't have another option. So I think that was the deciding factor. But I'm with you, and it's almost like people waited too long to try to work with Star, and then by the time they thought, hey, we might need to, all they have seen is her jump from idea to idea to idea and not execute anything, when that wasn't necessarily her fault. But nobody would jump on board with her, and now at this point she looks like she hasn't done anything and doesn't have a solid idea. So I don't know. I think it was just poor luck, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's one of those things where she set a bad first impression and you don't get a second one of those. So
Yeah.
just kind of stuck with her the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, even down to I think she definitely went on a reward or two, but not getting picked for rewards even, where I'm like, I was kind of disappointed in Kyle because I was like, Star would have been a great person to have on this reward to try to, I don't really know how you would have done it since he's undercover, but at least extend a hand and say, hey, I'm willing to work with you if you want to do something.
Right. Yeah, Kyle's definitely in an interesting spot. But I want to talk about Mitch a little more too. One, his story of running from the dog that was chained up. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, I was dying. And then I think it was Shaheen said, like, I haven't laughed that hard in years. And just the whole thing was funny. Mitch is so likable. And I don't really know where he goes from here. I mean, he's going to land on the bottom of the 6 unless Shaheen wants to make a move to split up, Shaheen, Kyle, Kamilla, and Mary make a move to split up, Joe and Eva. But I don't know. I don't really see a great way out for Mitch.
I think he's just a final 5 vote out, final 6 vote out, whatever the math is there.
Unfortunately, because I do really like Mitch, and it's like you said, it's an interesting spot because yes, you can be with the 6, but you're right there on the edge and you're on the outs. You're next in line. Go the other route if you are able to the other 4 were able to get something to happen and make a change. Maybe the outcome's a little bit different there, but it's just such an interesting spot, and I hate it because Mitch has been just one of the most likable and great stories, funny. I mean, he's been really fun to watch this season.
I don't know. The season's been a lot of fun for me because, and we say this a lot, but it's probably my favorite thing about Survivor is no 2 seasons are the same, and gameplay from one season may work and it may be the worst idea on the next season. You just never know. And this season definitely seems to be more relationship driven and a little more emotional than strategic. And I'm enjoying it. I don't know that it's my favorite season I've ever watched, but I like it because it's different. And I don't know. We're just getting to see some different gameplay that we haven't in a while. So
yeah, I like the kind of old school vibe that it has. I think it's different than anything we've seen in the new era so far, Which I think is interesting because there's a lot of people that complained about the new era and how it's all kind of the same, and now we're getting something different and they're still complaining. So it's like, all right, nobody's happy, but I've enjoyed it. I do wish there was a little bit more movement happening, but if you want to look at this season, I would enjoy it just for like the storylines of the people.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of great, I don't want to say characters, but there's just a lot of
personalities.
Really interesting people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, as far as old school players go, I think Star was a classic old school player. Like, I feel like she would fit in fairly well in the old school game. But to your point, was it the reward challenge that they were all dancing around for chicken and waffles and singing? And,
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was so much fun to watch. Like, everybody, I don't know, everybody just seems to enjoy each other and be happy and get along. And while it doesn't make for the most exciting TV sometimes, it's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. I would say this episode of Survivor was the closest thing we're ever going to get to a Survivor musical. So,
Yeah, I would say so.
If you're into that thing, watch Survivor 48 episode 10, I think. I might have been wrong, but and Shaheen is like the soundtrack of the season. He's doing challenge music a few episodes ago, and he's doing pre-challenge music, making up words to a chicken and waffles chant.
Yeah, it was great. Did you notice in the challenge that they switched it up this year, where you had to push the ball?
I thought of you.
It used to be like you push the ball with your head.
There was some cheating going on.
Oh man, yeah, cheating, and then the people that would just like throw it way ahead, and they made it much more difficult using your mouth this year. And I thought it was an awesome switch up. I liked it.
Yep.
Definitely a good touch.
No, I enjoyed it, and I thought of you immediately. I was like, we talked about this last year, and we're like, people throwing the ball, using their shoulders, doing all this stuff. I'm like, Kyle. I was thinking of last season's Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah, he flew through that last season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely saw that and said, all right, we got to make a switch. But
Yeah.
this might be the first challenge that Mary didn't look graceful in. Like, all the challenges where she's like going under the net in the mud or like crawling upside down on her back, she couldn't really look as graceful in this challenge. So I was like, dang, I figured out of anybody, she would find a way to like make it look awesome. So
Hey, another plus for you. You're a big 2 challenge episode guy, so you got that as well. It's a rarity in the new era.
And I didn't realize it at first. So we ended up watching it at Logan and Sydney's house, and the kids were playing around. I've got some pictures I'll send you. They were standing like right in front of the TV. But I looked over at Logan at one point and I was like, wait a second, this is just reward. This isn't even immunity. Like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. So
Chicken and waffles, though.
It's heavy.
I like that. Yeah.
it's hard to beat.
I mean, definitely be good. I mean, we haven't eaten anything, but I could just imagine after not eating anything or not a ton and then eating chicken and waffles, just how you would feel.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Whenever Eva was eating the tacos, I was like, Eva, slow down. Like, what are you doing? And then, of course, she's laying on the beach about to die. But there was a guy. I don't remember if it was. It's so fuzzy on when it was. If it was like forever ago, or if it was in a more recent season. But there was a guy that had. I think he went on a reward and he had beef or something. And he got sick from the beef, and like his colon or something got clogged. Is that right? That doesn't sound correct, but something got clogged. I'm not a doctor.
I'm waiting for you to pull out the whiteboard and start drawing diagrams. Oh man.
Something got clogged. I got a little thing that I have for my son that teaches him the internal organs. I'll have to pull that out next time. But
There you go.
Something got clogged and he had to get medically evacuated because he was all stopped up from the beef. And that's what I think about any time that these guys go on rewards after not eating anything forever is like, you take it easy. You haven't eaten in forever. You can't just chow down on tacos and not expect to feel terrible.
And I definitely think that what you're talking about there, Brandon, was like a previous old episode.
I had to get evacuated from the game because of the beef. Like, what a way to go out.
That's funny. And then the immunity challenge, classic. And I thought there for a minute it was not going to be as close as I think it was it last season that everybody was dropping it just over and over and over and nobody could seem to get the hang of it. It felt like we were there watching it for 45 minutes of the episode. This one seemed a little quicker, but then there was still some big drops right at the end. And I mean, Joe squeaking it out I don't think he realized how much he needed that. But that was big.
That edit that they did was sick.
Yes, it was.
It went on a little long, but that flying around, oh man, super cool.
I thought Shaheen was gonna win it without dropping.
I did too. That was gonna be.
I was rooting for him.
I was too.
I was really impressed with Kyle and how fast he was moving with that because he dropped several times and got right back in it. I know other people dropped and some of that, but he was moving fairly quick with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also shows you how slow Shaheen was moving.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. And then we had Star.
It was too high and it fell off. Yeah.
She was like Sue from last season. Oh, was it last season? Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just could not get it. I was kind of cracking up.
Well, I saw the way her arms were held and she had one arm like way wide and it was bothering me. Now, I do think that might be one of the hardest immunity challenges that they have.
100%.
If not 100%. The hardest. I'm trying to think of anything. Like, I know that some of the, like the one where they're up on a pole would be super difficult, but nobody's ever just dominated that challenge.
For sure. Yeah, the level of finesse and precision, it's unmatched. Another thing I was cracking up about, it's totally out of left field, at Tribal Council, did you notice how fast Kamilla talks?
She was flying.
So, Brandon, if you haven't noticed it, next episode, just pay attention to it. It sounds like, and not in a bad way, but it sounds like she's, you've got her on 2 times speed. She's like whipping those words out. But incredibly intelligent and knows what she's talking about. Like, not a shot at her, but it was like, whoa, slow down. You're okay.
Hey, she doesn't get a word in around these other guys.
It's true.
She doesn't say much, but when she does, you listen. She's impactful.
Yeah.
But I'll have to listen for that because I haven't paid attention to that.
This episode, I think, was just more like I've noticed that before, but this episode at Tribal is like, holy moly! But yeah,
yeah. And it's funny too because she's not like her gameplay doesn't seem to be the exact same all the time. Like she's willing to call people out at Tribal. She's willing to sit back and not say anything. And I don't know. I know some people don't agree with us just from seeing stuff online. They don't necessarily agree with her that she's the best player, but man, I still think she's. Now, I don't know that she has the best shot to win with where she's sitting, but as far as strategic gameplay this season, she's up there for me.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Yeah, I was about to go to war for Kamilla on TikTok because people were they were like, "What are you talking about?" People pushing for Shaheen, which we love Shaheen as well, but I just with Kamilla haven't seen like the way that she thinks. She's kind of outside the box and she just picks up on details that I know other people have, but they have done a really good job showcasing that she's picking up on it. And I think that for me is like what blows me away is like, okay, she's maybe we're not seeing her make the big flashy moves, but we're seeing her just understand the game in a way that not a lot of people do. And I think just for people that are like, what, she hasn't done anything. And I think she's being under edited. I think there's just more stories that they're wanting to focus on.
Yeah.
That I've kind of had to put her on the back burner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, her Survivor IQ is through the roof. But I don't necessarily disagree with everybody. Shaheen is up there for me as well. But I don't know. Not quite at that level for me, but I do really, really like Shaheen.
Yeah, I do want to ask you about that, Blake. I didn't get a chance to respond to it, but we had a clip last week of you talking about Shaheen's Survivor IQ, and got a response on TikTok from Punk Rock Christian Dad. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He seems kind of clueless outside of the montage of him explaining how to get David out. So is there more to his game that you've seen that makes you feel like he's way up here for you?
That's a good question. I think the montage of him talking about kind of how he had been laying the groundwork kind of brought a lot of it to light. But I feel like I had seen that for a while, and then it all got highlighted at one time. But this was not, that was, I think people have to realize that was not just last episode. He had been laying the groundwork on that for several weeks prior, or several weeks in the show, but several days prior.
Shout out Jelinski. It'll never die.
Nope. But I realized that was not just one move for him. That was a lot of little moves over several different weeks in the show or days in the actual game. And that's when I realized, like, man, he's thinking more than the step right in front of him. Where Mary right now, she's talking about, I'm just trying to survive another day, and then hopefully something will change. Whereas Shaheen is a little more in control on, like, hey, this is a move that I may want to make down the road. Let me start laying the groundwork for it now. And that was what I was talking about.
Well, yeah.
So didn't want Christian Dad.
Yeah.
No,
better calm down.
If you want to say more, or if you completely disagree, definitely email us. So shameless plug, but yeah, we'd love to hear from people, and so comments, anything like that. I'm ready to back up my opinions.
Yeah, no, the merchfeastpodcast@gmail.com, or we will happily hash out any comments just like we did there on the show.
I am curious for somebody like that, and maybe you guys can speak to it, but the people, and we've just talked about Kamilla a little bit, but the people that think Shaheen seems kind of clueless, who would you say is playing a better game? I mean, would you put maybe Kyle? But I couldn't say that Joe is necessarily playing a better game. Maybe from the standpoint of him having a ride or die in Eva. But other than that, I don't see a lot of strategic gameplay from Joe. So Kyle would be the only other person that I could see kind of at the top of that list. But
yeah, I think Kyle, Kamilla, and Shaheen are the three that I don't want to say are deserving, but if I had a vote, I would throw it their way.
Mm-hmm. So hypothetical, those three are in the final three.
That's a good final tribal,
right?
You know, I think it's tough for me. Sorry. I was processing. I had to buffer there for a second. For Shaheen, I think when you get into a majority alliance, it's easy to get complacent and not really feel like you need to do much of anything. Which that is something you can speak to as your gameplay is, hey, we were in a good spot. We had an alliance that we trusted, and look at me now.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I just look back to Kyle and Kamilla getting tribe swapped with Shaheen, Joe, and Thomas, and the way that they navigated that and managed to work together and not let anybody know, not let anybody know that they were working together, and pull off the move of saving Kyle and getting rid of Thomas. For me, it's Kamilla or Kyle. And as much as I would pick Kamilla right now, or have been pushing Kamilla, I might have to lean Kyle. I know last week I was pushing Kamilla, but it's a week-to-week game. I just feel like Kyle's in a really unique and great spot, and he can speak to being able to play both sides without compromising relationships. And if you're playing with a group that really respects loyalty and kind of that old school vibe, Kyle can play that because he was able to help out Kamilla multiple times without, I guess if you want to talk about David being a negative impact in that majority, but it felt like that was the general consensus within that majority, was to get rid of David. But he's just navigated both sides really well and has kept everybody happy.
Yeah, and not only both sides of the tribe, but both sides of the game. So I think he is playing the most well-rounded game. I don't think the best strategically or the best social game. I think other people have stronger games in both aspects, but he is towards the top of both of those lists and playing a very, very good social game and a very, very good strategic game. And I think as far as well-rounded gameplay, if he can speak to that at the end, man, he would have my vote.
Yeah. Whenever you started answering that question, Brandon, between those three, I immediately went between Kamilla and Kyle. And I think, yes, Kamilla, like you said, very high on her still, and think she has a shot to a point. But Kyle's definitely impressed me with the way being in the middle and navigating that. I mean, a lot of times you see people get in trouble with that and aren't able to play very long like that, and it's just been the entire season, and it's been truly impressive.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is obviously the most important part of Kyle being able to do that is the fact that him and Kamilla are undercover, but also Kamilla could have easily just go to that majority and be like, you guys know that Kyle's been playing this whole time, right? And she hasn't done that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that I think is helping Kyle as much as anything, is that Kamilla's just kind of letting this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it's going to come down to how it gets to that level. So if it is those three in the final, who voted who out, who made the big moves, because there's still time left to peak, and peaking at the right time in this game is obviously crucial, but then also being able to speak to your gameplay. I forget who was it. It was somebody last season who I thought played really well, but didn't really speak very well in the final tribal. Who was that? Was it last season?
I don't think it was last season, because last season it was Rachel and Sam lost, but he destroyed it.
In talking and all.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was then. Because I think that's spot on, because I thought...
Oh, it might have been Charlie in the season that Kenzie won.
Yeah. You might be right. I'm confusing some of those, because I think there for a minute I didn't think that Rachel did a good enough job to talk up her game, and Sam was crushing it, but then she ended up pulling it out. So yeah, I think I'm getting both of those a little confused, but it is surprising you can play so well and make it to the end and not be able to speak to the moves that you made and fumble the bag right at the end. And
Yeah.
so obviously it's going to come down to a lot of different factors, but I don't know. That would be a very, very fun final tribal. And you would have people on both sides who seem to like everybody and can respect, every aspect of the gameplay. You're going to have some people that are like, man, I like Shaheen's gameplay better. And some people, I don't know. I just never like the final tribal when it's, 11 people vote for the same person. I don't know if there's 11 people, but you know what I mean? I don't know. I want it to be a little closer. I'm like, man, who is it? They all had great gameplay, and I love to see votes get thrown different ways in the final tribal. Personally,
Yeah, I think looking at the remaining players in this cast, there's not a GOAT.
yeah,
There's everybody that's left. Maybe Mitch doesn't have as strong a case as Kyle does, or maybe Mary doesn't as Joe does, but everybody has something that they can speak to justify being the sole survivor. And that is just another reason to enjoy this season a lot, because I don't want to pick on Sue from last season, but like Sue got drugged to the end. She was never going to win, and the people that brought her there knew that, so they brought her. But there's nobody that's just,
yeah,
come along, I want to sit next to you.
I honestly feel like I was expecting Star to be that, because she didn't have anything. She wasn't playing a great game. But then with everything with Mary not having her shot in the dark and some of those things, it made sense Star going home now. But I honestly kind of fully expected Star to be that person. But I'm excited to see it where we don't have a GOAT.
that's the part of that strong 4, strong 6, or whatever they're trying to do. I feel like it was strong 5, no, it was strong 6, now it's strong 4. Who knows? But when they're talking about like, hey, we want the people that make it to the end to deserve it, I think that's what they're talking about. Not that the winners didn't deserve it before, but that there's somebody that gets taken along to the end because they think, oh, I can easily beat them and nobody's going to vote for them. And they don't want that at the end. And that part I absolutely love. Like, I don't like when somebody gets just drugged to the end and everybody watching and everybody on the show knows Sue's not going to win, but we're going to take her anyway. Like, and it makes sense strategically, but for me, the viewer, I like taking people to the end that deserve to be at the end.
So I had one thing that stuck out to me, and again, I didn't go back to prior seasons and look, but there's only 2 active advantages in the game right now, and both of them sit with Eva. She has the hidden immunity idol, and she has safety without power. And they're not even being talked about. And I'm starting to think that they're not even going to be used. Unless Eva just plays the idol at Final 5 just for the sake of playing it. But I don't see a scenario where she's going to need to use the safety without power.
At this point, unless something happens, she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Is safety without power, how long is that good for? Is it Final 7 or
I
6?
think the last time it can be used is next week, Final 7. But I feel like, and maybe I would need to go back and actually really dive into this, but maybe they dialed back on advantages a little bit. I know that some idols got used early, but it didn't feel like they circulated back into the game, or maybe they did, they just haven't been looked for. But it's kind of refreshing a little bit to not have like, oh, they're gonna go after Eva, but oh, she has an idol. And it's nice to just kind of see some, again, old school gameplay play out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am curious though. Do you think people are looking at that differently because of Eva's situation? Like, are they treating her differently, or because I would in past seasons knowing, hey, you've got a ride or die. These two are so close, and one of them has an idol. We've got to either break them up or flush the idol, and that's all people talk about. And so I hope not, but part of me worries a little bit. That's like, oh, I don't want to do that to Eva. She's so nice and likable, and like, just I don't know.
I honestly wonder if it's two things happening here. One, Eva got her idols very, very early. Hasn't been talked about. Like you said, there hasn't been a ton of advantages, different things like that. She's never even had to even worry about needing to use it. So I wonder if people have kind of forgotten about it.
I think that it just goes to the nature of the season. I think we talked about it last week. Joe and Eva's alliance only works in this season. I don't think it works in any other season. I do think that they're going to go after them at the merch and go, we got to break that nonsense up. But I just think because not only are they a duo, but they're in the majority, it's worked for them. And they have talked about, let's go after Joe. But yeah, there hasn't been any conversations of let's get Eva. So I don't know if they're not worried about her or if they think they can beat her at the end.
I was going to kind of mention something about Joe and Eva's relationship. And yes, they are close, and typically that is broken up. But like you said, that is something that going into the merge and having a majority already and not having that, hey, it's just two of us and we've got to go figure out what we're going to do. Like they actually have a large group around them. I think definitely helped the situation.
Yeah, and it definitely helps that Eva has been so transparent with everything and shows like, hey, I trust the people who I'm aligned with. Mm-hmm. And I mean, back to, was it last episode where she snuck off and Shaheen was like, oh my gosh, what's she doing? And then she came back and told him, and he was like, and that built so much trust. I had a little bit of doubt creeping in, and she came back and built that trust right back immediately, and now it's even stronger. So I think some of it may be like her gameplay, and hopefully she'll be able to speak to that if she makes it to the end on like, hey, I got this far because of my relationships and how honest and, forthcoming I was with this information. And then kudos to everybody else who is honest. And I mean, how often do you see where so many people are aligned so tightly and not talking about flipping on each other? I don't remember many past seasons where we had this many strong alliances where somebody is not looking for the next best thing.
Yeah, the last thing I remember this happening is when Boston Rob won his season and he implemented the buddy system. Yeah. So
yeah.
It doesn't happen often, that's for sure.
No. Well, I think it's probably time for Survivor of the Week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you kick it off, Brandon, because I just have a feeling you already know who you're picking.
It's savory. It's sweet. It's what you want to eat. I picked Shaheen this week just for the jingle. There wasn't anybody that they stuck out this week. I wanted to come in here and be like Mitch, Mary, Star, one of those. I wanted to see them make a move and come in here and really talk them up. But the highlight of the episode for me was pre-reward challenge. So I'm picking Shaheen just for that.
I like it. I'll go next, Blake, if you're good with it.
Yep.
I was kind of leaning the same direction, not person, but in the sense of the episode, there wasn't something that really stood out for certain reasons, but I was going to go with Star. I think just the clips and her rapping to Uncle JP, obviously it didn't sound like that seemed to stick with Jeff, but I don't know. It was a fun episode, and she's definitely going to be missed.
No, I think both of those are great picks. I actually have two other people on my mind. I'll tell you both of them, and then I'll narrow it down. So I was between Kyle and Joe. Joe for the reason that he won immunity when he needed to, and I don't think he realized that he needed to as badly as he actually needed to. But I think this episode could have potentially been very different if he hadn't have won immunity. But I'm actually going to go with Kyle, and seeing him play the middle so incredibly well. And like we talked about, I think he is the most well-rounded player right now. And being able to play both sides and still keep those relationships intact. And then he's smart enough to be able to speak to that. I think for me, he was Survivor of the Week.
Follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, at the Merch Feast, Twitter, Merch Feast Pod. Posting shorts, reels each and every day on those platforms. Follow us, comment, interact. We'd love to see you there. Thank you for everybody that has been doing that. We've obviously been reading your emails and reading your comments. That really adds to the show, gives us great conversations to talk about, so keep doing it.
Speaking of, do we have any emails?
Yes, we did have mail.
Mr. Consistent back in.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah. We got a few good emails this week, but we're going to narrow it down to just the one for the week since we read that TikTok comment earlier. So this is again from your dad. Hi guys, I don't know if you've ever looked it up, but I looked up on Google Earth the Fiji island, and you can see a couple different challenges in tribal council area. It's kind of cool. Kind of makes you realize too how far they're having to walk to the different stuff things.
Come on, Dad, you spell check.
I also looked up the rules, and some of those were kind of interesting. Like, I didn't know they couldn't talk to each other on the way to tribal council or the challenges.
Nice.
I had never think about going to Google Earth to look at something like that. That's actually a really cool idea.
Yeah, so Dad was actually showing me that when we had dinner this week, and it is pretty neat. Like, tribal council's all right there. It almost seems like, I mean, because the island is big, but it's not massive, and I would be curious to know how much on that island is for, the production staff. I mean, they clearly keep all the materials and everything there, but it is pretty neat. So if you guys have not done that, you should go and check it out. And if you search for, I think, Survivor Tribal Council Fiji, it'll pop it right up, and it's pretty neat. So you guys should check it out. But on the rules, I actually haven't ever looked up the rules, and so I thought that was kind of interesting to know that, like, can't talk to each other on the way to tribal council. Like, once they leave camp, it's no more conversation until tribal. And I don't know, so it kind of got me excited to go in and read some more of the rules, and I think it would help with my understanding of the game.
I mean, we could do a whole episode on that. I mean, even with the back to the Joe and Eva challenge thing, I didn't know that the tribes couldn't mingle with each other post challenge. So there's probably just a lot of different things that we could look into that would be really eye opening and fascinating to discuss.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you, Dad, for definitely sending that in. That's a cool little piece of information and all. So
nice.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Everybody tune in next week. We'll be back, and go ahead and say goodbye, Logan.
Goodbye, Logan.